Okay, it says I'm live, and so I decided to get on here just a few minutes early so that I can make sure um, you can hear me, you can see me. I always get paranoid about that. So let me check. I'm on my phone now, checking to make sure that I am there. Yes, I see me there. Let's see. I'm doing a multi-streaming today, so you can see this in the group and on my Facebook page. And so, it's technology. And so I always like to make sure I'm doing technology correctly. All right, I see me in the group. So let me find me on the page. And there I am. Okay, cool. I can see you. Or I can see me. That's good. All right. I think I can see comments. So if you wouldn't mind just saying hello in the comment, and so I can make sure that I can see the comments as they come in, that would be very much appreciated. And let me just go ahead and welcome and thank you for joining me for this conversation. Again, let me know if you can hear me and see me. You can also let me know that you're here by typing hello in the comments. I would appreciate that so much. Welcome and thank you for joining me for this conversation. Oops. Again, let me know. Okay, I got to put that down. All right. I was trying to see if there was a comment, but anyway. If my husband is watching, let me know. I know he can hear me from the other room. So, okay. So let's talk today about your next steps in uncertain times. I know right now it feels very uncertain. You are probably a little fearful right now. If you are a founder of a nonprofit, I can only imagine that you could be just wondering if you need to continue. And so I just want you to know, I want to be an encouragement to you. You don't give up. This week I wrote a letter to you actually on my on my blog post. I decided instead of a blog post, I was just going to write a letter to all of you that follow me. And so go check that out. I hope that it's some encouragement for you, and I hope it helps you get rid of some of that fear, because I think that we are all very fearful right now, just with the uncertainty of business and nonprofit work and, health and all of that. So anyway, maybe today I can help you with a plan and help you feel more in control. It's what I hope that you feel after we get done today. I want you to have a sense of, yes, we can do this. We can move forward. And so specifically today, we're going to talk about the plans and decisions that need to be made today. You don't need to put these off any longer, but you need to make these decisions. And then I want to talk about messaging, communication, marketing plans that are needed right now. And of course, we're going to mix a little fundraising in there, because the one thing I want you to take away from all of this today is that you cannot stop fundraising. Do not stop fundraising. I guarantee you, if you stop fundraising, you are going to get $0 now and in the future. Because if you go silent and you walk away, people will remember it, and donors will wonder, well, where were you? when all this other hit. So I want you to walk away with, do not stop fundraising right now. That's so important. All right, so if you are watching the replay, because I know a lot of you do that, and you have a question during the live, just go ahead and put them in the comments, because I do go back for about a week and answer the questions. So just want you to know, if you are watching a replay, that doesn't mean you can't participate. Please do. All right, so let me check one more time, make sure everything is ready to go. We're at the 2 o'clock mark, so it's time to move forward, and I do not see any comments. So I'm going to assume that we are good to go. All right, so in case you don't know who I am, I know the people in the group at the top, Small Nonprofit Leaders, knows who I am. But for those of you on my Facebook page, you may not know. So I am Alicia Mathis. I'm the owner of Mathis Nonprofit Services. I have worked for nonprofits for 10 years in administration, development, and programs. I have served on 3 different boards, and I'm currently serving on one now. And I've spent a good many years in the bigger nonprofits, the mid-sized nonprofits, where I learned so much about nonprofit work and development work, which is fundraising. And I then found myself at a very small nonprofit. There was 9 employees, under $1 million budget, and I absolutely loved the small nonprofit. But I was in programs, and I saw so many things, no cost, low cost things that this organization could be doing to bring in so much more money. And when I would make the suggestion, I was told I was in programs and not fundraising anymore. So it was a love for small nonprofits and just a frustration of knowing that I could do something to help them thrive, that I now teach nonprofit leaders just like you how to raise the money to fund your mission. And so you can find out more about me at on my website at mathisnps.com. And let me just copy and paste this into the comments, see if I can do it. I am a one-woman show, so it's all just a test, right? Okay. Okay, so mathisnps.com. All right, if you haven't said hello yet, please do so now, so I know that you were here and saw this video. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so let's get into today's live. Your next steps in uncertain times. So what do you do to keep your nonprofit functioning during this time? I mean, we've got social distancing and isolation going on. And so it's very difficult. We're in crisis mode, and it's just more difficult than ever before to keep our nonprofit functioning and to raise money. So the short answer is you have to have a plan. And so here are my steps for getting through a crisis. The very first thing, this is what you need to do today, is you need a cash flow plan. Now, a cash flow plan includes a cash flow statement. And in case you don't know, a cash flow statement is a snapshot of right now. It's a pulse of your business, and it will include your income, your expenses, your cash on hand, any outstanding payables, receivables, loans, other money owed, money used for capital purchases or other investments, and the reserves you have. All right, a cash flow plan, a cash flow statement differs from a budget because a budget contrasts projected and actual money spent, and budgets are used to forecast. Now, cash flow statements are used to get a realistic picture of finances at that particular time that the information is gotten. So you'll have to put together a cash flow plan. And I want you to do it for 90 days. So for the next 90 days, map out what your cash flow looks like. And then once you have your cash flow plan, you're going to have to make some decisions. And so the decisions you're going to be making is, we have enough money coming in for X number of days. All right. Once you've analyzed everything, you know you have enough money coming in and money that you can operate on for how many days. All right. The next decision you're going to make, because now's the time to make that decision, not when you're knee deep and emotionally involved in things. When will we tap into reserves? Now, some of you may not have reserves. And if you don't have reserves, I hope you understand the importance now of taking the time and making the effort of creating those reserves once we've come through all of this. But if you have reserves, you need to determine when you're going to tap into those reserves. At what point? What point financially are you going to tap into those reserves? And so you may make a statement or a goal of, we need to have, X number of dollars each day until we tap into reserves. So that's, how much money you've got coming in or how much money you have available. And that's when you're going to tap into the reserves. And so then the last thing you're going to have to decide, and this is the hardest one, is when will we stop tapping into reserves and begin making the hard decisions? So how much money are you going to leave in reserves? And you have to leave some in reserves. You cannot just totally decimate everything. You've got to leave some in reserves. So you've got to decide now when that point is. And when I say making the hard decisions, it might be cutting services, laying people off, those kinds of decisions. Like I said, now is the better time to do that when you have a little bit more logical mindset, because once you get knee deep into all of it, it's going to be a whole lot harder to make very good decisions on that. So that's what you need to do right now, today, before the sun sets. That's the first thing you need to do. Now, once you've done your cash flow plan, then you need a nonprofit strategy plan. And so what this plan answers, the question it answers, is how will you make money over the next 90 days? You cannot stop fundraising now. I know that is the intuition, that's what you think you should do, is stop fundraising. You're concerned about messaging and what it looks like. And, one of the concerns I hear often is that people are laid off. They don't have jobs. They don't have money to give right now. So we're just going to stop fundraising. No, you cannot do that. I guarantee you, if you stop fundraising now, you will get $0 in, and even a little bit after when we come out of this. It's going to take you a little bit longer to ramp up those fundraising efforts. So do not stop fundraising. So what you're going to do is you're going to create, if you haven't already created a fundraising plan, you're going to create a fundraising plan just for the next 90 days. If you have a fundraising plan, now is the time to revise it for just the next 90 days. And so when you revise it, your fundraising plan needs to reflect the current situation. So an example, if an in-person event was in your plan in the next 3 months, obviously you've got to make some decisions on that. Your decision might be to go virtual with it, to get creative. It may be to cancel it, but to for now and postpone it till the fall. Let me tell you, if you do that, you're going to have a lot of competition because every organization out there, that's what they're doing. So be mindful of that. Your third option, of course, is just to cancel it for this year and maybe do it next spring. Those are decisions you have to make, and I hope you understand now why I tell my people do not get heavy into events, because when things like this happen, events are the first to go. They are risky to begin with. They're great if you have diversified your funding, but if that was your funding, if you were planning on that kind of funding, event funding, you are now hurting. And I hope that you understand now the importance of diversifying your fundraising. And that's really what you need to do in the next 90 days. Make sure you have different things going on to help you with fundraising and to get that portfolio a little bit more diversified. Once you have your updated fundraising plan, you are going to communicate your cash flow plan and your nonprofit strategy with staff and volunteers. That's the first thing you do. They need to know you have a plan, that you can lead them through this. And so you and your board, and when I say you doing all this, this really needs to be you and your board getting together and doing this. I do not expect an executive director, a founder, to do this all by themselves. But it needs to be done. And so the next step is to communicate cash flow plan and nonprofit strategy with staff and volunteers internally, whoever is internal. And then for transparency, I would recommend parts of this plan can be communicated to your donors. So you may not want to open up everything to your donors, but definitely letting them know you have a plan, you know what's going to happen, or you know how to execute this plan. You are not planning on cutting services or laying anyone off right now. And it's okay to tell your donors, we're okay right now, but we do see a time in the future, past 90 days, when we're not going to be. And we may be asking for your help at that point. Right now, we're okay. That's okay. But communicate that with your donors. They need to hear from you right now. They need to know that you're stable and that you have this under control. Let me tell you right now is a really good time to build your email or your donor list. Excellent time, especially if you're putting lead magnets on your website, because people are online now. They are surfing, they are looking, and so something that is of value to a donor right now, and if it's cause related, that's even better. Put it out there, one-page PDF, a checklist, something, so that you can start getting email addresses and names for your donor list. All right. Now, the next step, so let's recap. We have done our cash flow plan. We have done our nonprofit strategy plan, which includes revising our fundraising plan. And then we're talking about our messaging and marketing plans. Now, a messaging plan is what you will say. A marketing plan is where you will say it. And let me tell you, what you say during this crisis will be remembered. So think carefully, very carefully about your messaging. So messaging plan, what you are going to say. These are your talking points. These are the ways in which you're going to say things. This is where you're going to talk. You're going to sit down and you're going to say, okay, what is the problem that we're solving? How do our donors feel right now? How do we want to make them feel? Those kind of questions you're going to sit down and talk through for your messaging plan. Right now, you need 2 messages. You need your quarantine message, which is what you're going to put out in the next 24 hours and until we get out of quarantine. And your second message is your recession message. I do believe we're going to go into a recession. I think it's going to be short-lived, simply because I know there's a lot of unemployment out there. But I think once the quarantine's lifted, we'll be able to go back to work. We'll be able to find those jobs again. And I think that there's just going to be a brief period of time where it's going to get rough. And then once people get back to work and paychecks start flowing back in, people start getting caught up on their bills, things will start to even out again. So I don't think this is going to be a huge time frame. Not to mention, we're all stuck inside. We're going to want to get out. We're going to want to go to places. We're going to want to be with people. And I think that we're going to be spending again. I know that we are spending right now, but we're spending on necessities and things that we just absolutely have to have. But we're going to have some pent-up demand there on just the luxury items. And so I don't think the recession is going to be huge, but you need to have a message during that time. Okay, so let's go back and talk a little bit about these 2 messages and what needs to be part of those messages. So let's go back to the quarantine message. Okay, you need to make sure that you include empathy for your donors. I mean, it's rough for everybody right now. And so think through who your donors are. This is where your ideal donor is good to know, because you can think through their situation right now. Where are they? What are they doing? And how can you empathize with that? And now remember, your donor is always the hero in your story. You are always the guide. So you're the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker. So make sure that you are empathizing with your donor. The guide part comes in when you are showing authority and competency. You have a plan. You have a plan to get through this. That's what you want to communicate. You have a plan. If you are financially stable right now, let your donors know. If you aren't, if you do need some money, let them know that too. But also let them know that there is a plan in place, that you are working a plan. That way you have some authority. And you're showing that you are competent to get through this. All right. And during this time, you want to over communicate. First of all, people's inboxes are blowing up right now. So the odds are they're not going to see every single email that you put out there. But you want to make sure that you are there and you are communicating with them, because if you go silent during this time, when we get through all of this, they're going to wonder where you were and what you were doing and why you didn't step up. So over communicate right now. For most of you, I think over communication is going to be at least one time a week to your donors. Some of you are probably used to maybe once a month sending out a newsletter. I would still send out that newsletter, but once a week. I would also be sending out information about what you are doing, how you're executing your plan, the impact you're making, and it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for money right now. Do it sensitively, but still ask, because there are people out there that can give. And so you want to make sure that you're asking. Some messages to consider. Quarantine. When we're in quarantine, touch someone, as in emotionally. Obviously we can't physically touch anyone, but if you can figure out some way that you are touching someone emotionally, letters are really good. Handwritten notes are good right now. That's some way to touch them emotionally. And but if your messaging can have something like that in it, if it's appropriate for your cause, that would be a good thing, because right now I think we are, the longer this goes on, we're going to have that need for human contact and connection and belonging. And so any of those messages are going to, once we are going to switch to more of a encourage someone message. We're going to need some encouragement. People, it's going to be tight. Money's going to be tight, and so there will be some encouragement needed. So if you can create those messages now, you're going to be way ahead of the game later. And then the next thing on your communication plan, the staff, your board members, they need to hear from you every day. Staff in particular, board, if you're an executive director or a founder, your board, I think you can probably decide better if once a day is too much. It may be, but your staff, particularly your staff, needs to hear from you every single day. They need to know what the plan is, what you're expecting during this time. You need to be very clear and not micromanage, but they need some reassurance. So you need to make sure that you're doing that every day in some way. All right. So once we get out of this quarantine, we need a recession plan, and your recession plan simply answers the question, how are you going to get through the coming recession? What are you going to do? Your messaging is going to be money is tight, but where are the opportunities for you to get through? Okay. It said something went wrong. So I have no idea where that went wrong. I don't know where I was at. So let me go back up and okay. Let me go back up a little bit. back up. We're going to talk about the staff needs to hear from you every day during quarantine. You really need to make sure that you are communicating. They need reassurances. So you need to be communicating those reassurances, making sure you're very clear on what you expect, because they're going to be working remotely. And so, even if it's just daily, what you expect to get done or what needs to get done, or having them report back to you what's been done and what needs to be done, however you want to do it. You don't need to be a micromanager, but you do need to make sure that you keep people on track, that and you're reassuring them. I think that's the bottom line. Okay, so then we have a recession plan, and that recession plan just needs to answer, how are you going to get through the coming recession? What are you going to do? Messaging is going to be money is tight. And so how can you, what opportunities are there for you? Because you might find that there's maybe a program that you can do, your organization can has a solution for, and so you have a new program now. You'll need funding. It's okay to ask. This is how this is part of the plan. This is how you're going to help the community bounce back. And so you need some funds to do that. That's okay. So, all right. You have my plan now, how to get through this temporary situation. And I want to be very clear. I know new normal, the term is going around and people are saying, how do we adjust to our new normal? Let me tell you, this isn't a new normal. New normal implies a change in a permanent situation. You're going from one permanent situation to another, and that's a change. And so that becomes the new normal. This situation that we're in is not permanent. It's temporary. It is temporary. And so once we start using that language, temporary, words matter. And so when we start telling ourselves, this is just temporary, this is a blip, it's really going to wind up being just a blip. This is not going to be years. It's going to be a few months probably, but it's not going to be years. So it's temporary. It's a very temporary situation. This is not a new normal. This is not a permanent situation. So I hope that encourages you today, that we're in a temporary situation and we'll get through it. We just will. We are resilient. And I know you know that because you're in nonprofit work. People are resilient, and we will be resilient too. All right. So let me leave you with this. What you do now can strengthen your nonprofit. Pivoting your message well can even make your nonprofit thrive. I've seen it. I've seen where people ask for money in a very positive way, in a sensitive way during this time. They pivoted their messaging, they tested their messaging, and they thrived during hard times. It can happen, but it's totally up to you. You can continue with the same messaging, or you can get a little sensitive and you can pivot that message and you can thrive. So that's it. That's all I have for today. If there are any questions, I don't see any questions. I don't see any comments. I will, as soon as I get done with this, I'll go back and check on Facebook and make sure that there's nothing there. I'll be glad to answer anything. You can certainly email me, alicia.mathis@mathismps.com. And I would love to know if you find anything in this live that was helpful. If you did, if you wouldn't mind just giving me a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not helpful at all, and 5 being very helpful. I am trying very hard to find the subjects and the things that matter to you. And so giving me some kind of feedback like that certainly helps me decide on what topics to go to talk about. So I would greatly appreciate that. All right, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I hope that you have a great week and a great day, and I will see you again. Until next time, bye.